This CPOC Commissioners meeting is hereby called to order. The time is now 6:14 p.m. My name is Hassan Bennett. I am the interim chair of the Citizens Police Oversight Commission, and I will be facilitating this meeting. This meeting was properly advertised pursuant to the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act. With that being said, I will call roll. Commissioners, when you hear your name, please acknowledge yourself, please. With that, Commissioner Melanie DeBose.
Present.
Commissioner DeBose is present. Commissioner Malika Rockman.
Present.
Commissioner Malika Rockman is present. Commissioner John Solomon.
Present.
Commissioner Solomon is present. Commissioner Michelle Enix Kenny.
Present.
I don't know what made me say Alexander. I apologize. Commissioner Michelle Enix Kenny is present. Commissioner Erica Stewart.
Present.
Commissioner Stewart is present. Commissioner Gilberto Gonzalez.
Present.
Commissioner Gonzalez is present. Commissioner Latanya Whitehead.
Present.
Commissioner Whitehead is present. Commissioner Hakeem P.A. Commissioner P.A. is not present. Before I move forward, Jody, is Commissioner P.A. in the queue anywhere? In the public section?
No.
With that being said, Commissioner P.A. has an unexcused absence. We have, with 8 commissioners present. Oh, my name is Hassan Bennett. Of course, I'm present. With 8 commissioners present, we do have a full quorum. With that being said, we'll move to that every commissioner have a chance to review tonight's agenda.
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Solomon here.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
With that being said, do I hear a motion? Do I hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
A motion to approve tonight's agenda.
That is Commissioner Gonzalez motioning to approve tonight's agenda. Does anyone second that motion?
Commissioner Solomon, I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Solomon seconds the motion. All those in favor of this motion say aye.
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 All those that disapprove this motion say nah. The ayes have it, and with that, this motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda passes. And with that, I will now pass the meeting over to our executive director, Ms. Tanya McClary.
I apologize. Before you start the agency report, can you advise the public about the executive session?
I thought we'd do that at the end of the meeting, but we will be having an executive session after this meeting to obtain legal counsel from our general counsel, Catherine Twigg, to obtain legal advice. All right, thank you. And with that, Ms. McClary.
Good evening, commissioners, and good evening to members of the community. I'm excited to bring you our agency report. And if we could go to the first slide. So we are CPOC, the Citizens Police Oversight Commission, and we oversee and investigate the conduct, policies, and practices of the Philadelphia Police Department. Currently, we review complaints of police misconduct. We audit and monitor internal affairs investigations and police disciplinary processes. We sit and vote on PBI panels at police discipline hearings. We conduct oversight of police shootings, analyze police data, develop policy recommendations and reports, and we engage in outreach and training. Next slide, please. So civilian oversight is necessary. You know, I know some people debate about, is this really necessary? But it is. And that's because we serve many important functions. We protect human rights. We promote constitutional policing. We increase public confidence and trust in the police. We build bridges between law enforcement and the public. We support effective policing. We ensure greater accountability, and we enhance risk management. And so I want to give an example about protect human rights. And so I think a lot of you know that I have done this work in a few other cities, and one of them was in New Orleans. And when I was in New Orleans, I was the chief monitor over use of force. So I was the one that monitored all of the use of force cases that came out of the city of New Orleans Police Department. And as you can imagine, New Orleans is a big tourist destination. So there was always use of force incidents happening. And one of the things that I was most proud of was a group that I helped to form and then facilitate called Families Overcoming Injustice. And so this was a group of family members who had loved ones that were killed by the New Orleans Police Department. And they came up with something called a Family Bill of Rights. And I'm very proud of helping them walk with that work, because this was a set of rights that they developed, having experienced this firsthand of what families should get if they ever have a loved one that was killed by the New Orleans Police Department. And so one of the things that I think, unless you're probably in that category, which we hope nobody ever is this thing around human dignity and human rights. And so one of the things in human rights is to have human dignity. And so one of the things that the family members pointed out was that a lot of times when a loved one was killed, they were never notified, that most times they found out about it on the news. And so one of the things I worked to do in New Orleans and also in Dallas, where I was in charge of oversight, was to actually make sure that the department built into their policies that they had to try to notify family members before anything was released to the news about a loved one that was killed. If that may seem small to many people, but that helped to really protect the human rights and human dignity of that person. And so literally built into the policies was a procedure about how family members of a decedent would be contacted in the event of an officer-involved shooting. The other thing, going back to New Orleans, was that a lot of the family members talked about, you know, not only did they not know that a loved one was killed, but when they did get news and they came to the scene, a lot of times their loved one was just laid out in the street, just where they had been slain. And I'm not getting into justification, right? This is not about whether a shooting was in policy or out of policy. I'm just talking about literally the human dignity of the person that was killed. And so based on their feedback, we got the New Orleans Police Department in this Family Bill of Rights to put up screens. So every district was fitted with screens so that when they arrived on the scene, the body had to be covered in some type of way. And so I know for some people, they may seem like really small things, but those are ideas that came from the Oversight Office, where we worked with the families, and it brought some human rights and human dignity to those that were killed by police. And so those are just a few examples of how we make that protect human rights. And I always say human rights and human dignity come alive. And so I wanted to give that example to the commissioners and to the community. And so next slide, please. So we were so excited because we seated our new commissioners, and we made that announcement last time, but for some of you, you may be tuning in for the first time. And so we are so excited that we have a full complement of commissioners. We are 9 strong, and I'm so excited to work with the 5 new ones, and then also Commissioner PA, who was reappointed. And so we are really excited now that the city of Philadelphia has a full police oversight commission. So welcome once again. And for those of you that didn't catch us last month and are just catching up on this news, we are very excited about this commission that is sitting. And we also want to thank the 4 commissioners that held it down for quite a while on their own. and really brought still a lot of insight and just a lot of rejuvenation to the office. And so next slide, please. So actually, Jody, if you can just go back to the other one. Thanks. So I wanted to bring out, and in fact, if Jody, if you want to take this down, that would be great. And so I wanted to bring something to the commissioners, and hopefully some of you in the public comment section at the end, when the chair opens that up, might want to weigh in on something that I think has been weighing heavy on the hearts of people in the oversight community. And so I think many of you may remember a few years ago when Tyree Nichols in Tennessee was killed. And it was really interesting because the officers involved in the Tyree Nichols case were African-American. He was African-American, right? And I think that what people normally see is that maybe people of color being killed by white officers, but this was a discussion about Black officers killing somebody that was Black. And so I think it really sparked a debate again around, it doesn't matter who the officers are. A lot of times the trigger is the victim, right? That when you have an African-American person or a person of color, it doesn't matter who the officers are, it matters who they are. And I think that this case brought that full forward. And so just yesterday, 3 of the officers involved in the case were acquitted by a predominantly all-white jury. So that's why I'm saying these things are very complex, right? Here's 3 African-American officers, the jury's almost all white, and they acquitted these officers of the top charge, which was second-degree murder, but also acquitted them of all the underlying charges. And so they also had been charged with aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression. And the jury acquitted them of all of the issues. They deliberated for 8.5 hours. And that was the verdict as of yesterday. And so I wanted to open it up to the commissioners. I wanted to just kind of prompt 2 questions for you all. So I'll just start with the first one. You know, that although this incident happened in Memphis, it generated a lot of national interest. And so I would love for our Director of Outreach and Constituent Services, Talia Grimmage, to let the commissioners know, because many of you are new, as well as the community, remind us of the work that CPOC did in the wake of the killing of Tyree Nichols.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Talia Grimmage, the Director of Outreach for CPOC. So just to provide a little bit of background and history, in February of 2023, when this incident happened, we held a virtual community discussion about this incident. But the topic of discussion really centered around grief and trauma in the Black community and communities of color. And so the title of the town hall was actually Policing in the Black Community, the Path Forward. And we really looked at it through the lens of the repeated viewings of some of these incidents of police violence or officer-involved shootings, and how there's so much discussion around, you can't get away from it. When you go on social media, when you turn on the news, the videos are constantly being shown everywhere. And so we kind of use that as sort of the vehicle to kind of spark some discussion about what does that mean when you see these repeated images of trauma? How does that affect the community? And we talked about the fact that in Memphis, as our executive director said, you have these officers who looked like the victim. And so we talked about how do we begin to foster a police culture that promotes peer intervention? Because if you remember that video, there were quite a few people that were there when the incident occurred. And so we know that Memphis PD, Philly PD, so many police departments are ABLE trained, which is the active bystander of law enforcement. And this is a program that really does promote peer intervention. And so we just wanted to provide some space for people to just kind of talk about it. We partnered with Black Men Heal because we wanted to have some people who were familiar with counseling and trauma and grief there for the discussion. We had Rep. Chris Robb, friend to the agency. He was there as well and gave his perspective as one of our elected officials. And we did not want to not have law enforcement present. So we had representation from NOBLE, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Commissioner Rahman was there with us. I think you were one of the NOBLE representatives that joined us that night when we had that very important discussion about Tyre Nichols and how, even though it's Memphis, these are things that really transcend location, and nationally, all of us are affected when we see things like this. So that just gives us a little bit of context to the discussion that CPOC had. And so I'll turn it back over to our ED, who can take it from there to just kind of get some opinions and thoughts from our commissioners.
So Commissioner Rahman, that's exciting. I wasn't here, so I didn't know that. That's wonderful, wonderful. So you can help us carry this thread through. So I just kind of have two questions for our commissioners. And once again, hopefully maybe some of you in the community will have a question or two when that part of the agenda comes up. But commissioners, just two questions for you tonight. Let's start with just the first one. How do we as oversight practitioners keep the mission of our agency moving forward in times of disappointment? And you know, Chair, I'll turn it back over to you to facilitate it, or if you want me to facilitate it, I will follow your lead on that. But the first question is, how do we as oversight practitioners keep the mission of our agency moving forward in times of disappointment?
So with that being said, I'm gonna send this question to certain commissioners that have been community organizers in the community, and I'm gonna let them answer it first. I'm gonna give Elder Melanie a break because she's having health issues right here, but we thank her for still showing up when she could have just sat out on this, but she's here. So I'm going to start with Commissioner Solomon.
Okay. Perfect. So I don't think this is a easy question to answer. We've seen this happen historically again and again and again. Nevertheless, like, it's times like this that we're reminded of why agencies like CPOC exist and why so many people across this country, tired, discouraged or not, chooses to keep this fight going because it's so important. I think in cases like this, man, we just gotta do all that we can do, whether that's going out to the community and engaging the residents, letting them know who we are and what we do and what we're doing and what we've been able to accomplish. Because every small win is a win, even in the face of disappointment, where we have police officers in this case being acquitted. And we've seen this again and again. So for me, I just think it's important that we continue to fight. You know, historically, specifically Black people, we've been victims of traumas from the very day we've gotten to this country. But those that came before us and those that will come after us chose to fight in spite of. Fighting looks different for everybody. Like I said, you have people, commissioners here that's doing things to fight. We have residents, we have other organizations that's doing things to fight. And for me, I just think it's important that we continue this fight. I will say, I know there's many questions, but I will say, first and foremost, before I even get into giving a solution, I think it's important for me to just, for the record, just to say like my prayers and thoughts goes out to the family. Because I think Dr. King said this, man, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So yeah, we doing all that we can with what we got. I think that's why it's important that we continue to push for this independent investigations, because when power is not challenged, when power is not held accountable, no matter what state you're from, no matter what city you're from, the person that's in the position to be responsible for the decisions he or she makes feels comfortable with making those decisions, whether their peers or their co-workers are present or not. So for me, I just think we gotta do everything that we can, and never allow narratives and media to desensitize us. I think that's very important. I think we get desensitized from just seeing these images and hearing this narrative constantly throughout our lifetime. But it's very important for us not to be discouraged or desensitized to these issues, because these are real human beings. That was a real man, a working man, that really was brutally beaten to death. That has a real family, and for all I know, has kids. So we gotta keep those stories alive. We gotta push those stories and be a voice, because sometimes that's all you need to keep going until people get the strength again. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Commissioner Solomon. I called on you because of your work in the North Philly area regarding gun violence and your previous work regarding the protests and conflict resolution surrounding the George Floyd and Tyree Wallace situation. Next I would like to call on, I'm gonna save I got a joker. I got a joker in this situation that's gonna, I believe, is gonna hit home for everybody. But I'm gonna hold that one for last. I'm gonna call on Miss Commissioner Stewart and ask for you to answer this question.
I would share the same sentiment that that Commissioner Solomon shared, where you have to like find an anchor of your balance and your ethics of police oversight. So like for me, understanding what it looks like hands-on in real time, working with the encampments, as well as the protests on 52nd Street, just understanding that those were the ideas that I have hands-on, and seeing them not do their due diligence, but also doing their due diligence. And I think the opposites, there's a big contrast where there's like the occupation part of people not leaving 52nd Street, and due to protests of what's going on, racial injustice, but then also people being displaced and mishomed because of this is the policy and procedure that has nothing to do with the police department, but this is the department that has to enforce it. So I would say for me, that's the idea of oversight, of finding an anchor of when does it make sense for oversight? And I would say for those two different experiences, that's what gave me like the idea of like why oversight is important. It's a very tense environment, but also to be there firsthand and not know what to do and not feel safe, but at the same time know that people have rights and people have voices, and it goes down the line and they turn into actions.
Thank you. I called on Commissioner Stewart for her work with the youth and organizing up the Germantown area. Thank you very much. My next I would like to ask Commissioner Rockman to answer this question due to her work in community college and the leadership that she has provided throughout the community, as well as our higher education, to answer this question.
Thank you, Chair Bennett. So I think that the sentiments that have been echoed are very important. However, I do want to highlight one thing that Ms. Grimmage shared in her presentation, is that we have to recognize that this was a traumatic incident and it did not stop at the trial. Even years later today, there's still trauma attached to this. And I think that we recognize that and acknowledge that there is still pain with the process and make space to have those tough conversations, because the fight is great, but we can't expect people to fight if we don't allow them a safe space to say, I'm tired. This is hard. And then I think the additional aspect to that, where we pick our fight back up, is that for us in the space of oversight, is that we remain committed to the mission, understanding that the work of oversight must ever evolve. It cannot expect to stay neutral in one way. We have to be working to ever evolve and ever improve this work, because disappointment on the front line of any cause is par for the course. There is no fight that you go into with the expectation that every round you're going to win. But if we stay in the fight, if we stay committed to the mission, understanding that the hits are going to come, and yes, some of them are going to hurt very badly. But if we remember that it's okay to make space for trauma, it's okay to say this is hard, it's okay to allow people the space for that, then when we come back with the fight, when we come back with the resolve, then we're not asking people to be resilient without rest, but we're giving them space to get to the point of resilience. And I think that's where today and the work that we have to continue to do really takes us, is to a place of recognizing that it's hard, recognizing that it's hurt, but then utilizing our commitment to remain committed, that we remember why we're here, remember why oversight is important, and then stay committed to that in spite of. Because that's the thing about oversight. If oversight was easy, everybody would have it.
Mhm.
If oversight was easy, everybody would do it. The reality is there are many factors, and I'm sure Executive Director McCleary has already looked at these factors, but she mentioned that there was a predominantly white jury, but also the fact that they brought in a jury who was not from Memphis. They brought them in from a different city, right? So we're talking about socioeconomic factors, racial factors. There are a series of things that we could break down of why this may have happened, but the reality is that it hurts. And we have to own that space, make space for that, but also remain committed to what the work requires. And the work that is required is for us to ever evolve, to never stop working and never stop striving, that eventually, one day, oversight won't be a thing we have to push for, but it'll be a requirement.
And thank you, Ms. Rockman. Thank you, Commissioner Rockman. Next, I'm so happy that selection panel granted us with all of you, because now I can pivot from a professor from the community college onto alumni from HBCU and get her point of view. Commissioner Enix Kenny, can you answer this question on how we maintain faith in oversight and the mission of oversight, and how do we continue to push oversight and inspire people in our community to trust oversight after an incident?
Yeah, so I think that three things: unify, clarify, intensify. I think it's really important, and we've all hit that point this evening, is that we have to be unified, right? When people see that they have a resource to go to, and we are that resource, and we are effective, and we are together, they'll come and they'll know that this is a place that they can get some of those questions answered, and just have the help, the assistance, and just the visibility that they need in terms of, we saw that as well. And clarify, just being really clear, but adaptive. I think Commissioner Rockman mentioned the evolution, being able to flow, because as we see, these issues cross state lines. They're happening everywhere, and they're happening with the same level of intensity at times. So it just weighs in very heavily for me in terms of what we can do and what our agency is here to do: unify, clarify, and intensify. We're not going to let up. We're not wimps. We're not going to back down. We're going to call a spade a spade. We're going to call the shots. We're going to say, this is what I see. You know, there's two ways to get the chicken, but you can't break the egg and get the chicken. You have to let it hatch. So sometimes things just take time. And that's what we're here for, to take the time that's needed to address the issues that are critical.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And last but not least, I saved you for last. I apologize for saying the Joker, right? But it was this next one was my wild card because when it comes to police shootings in Philadelphia and deaths, at the Eddie Rizzaro case it hit our city. It hit our city heavy. And Commissioner Gonzalez, I want to pivot to you and ask you not only to answer Miss our executive director Tanya McClary's question on how do you maintain faith and oversight with your community, but I kind of want to steer it to how did you maintain faith in the Hispanic community during the Eddie Rizzaro death, in regards to the officer as a result of an officer involved shooting. So with that, I'll give it to Commissioner Gonzalez.
Hi, so I agree with what everyone here is saying. I think you know, I was born and raised here in Philadelphia. When it comes to police action, you know, and I'll give you a simple example. This is very simple but very critical. You know, I live in Kensington that's where Rizzari was shot and killed. We have the opiate epidemic here. Back in the 80s, when I was young, we used to call it the crack epidemic, right? And they called us junkies. It was a different color back then, right? And what did they do? The police beat us, beat our people, imprisoned our people, locked our people up. And it wasn't just the white cops, it was the black cops and the Latino cops, right? And it was called, and being derogatory was common and accepted, right? Now the problem in Kensington is a different color, and now you can't use those same words, right? And so, like for me, just the one aspect alone of it is that that badge has one color, and I think that we need to, again, like I think I've said this before, we need to look at the training. We need to look at what these officers are, how they're being trained, and also they need to understand our cultures. You know, they need to understand North Philly. North Philly is very different from other places. North Philly is very different. People need to understand, for example, Philadelphia, the migration to Philadelphia from the South. People need to understand all this history so that they can know why we're here and better serve us. So that's one aspect. With the Irizarry, to be honest, even before that, my experience with police, I might cry a little bit, but it wasn't good. Oh God. I may have to pause. Give me a second.
Take your time.
Commissioner Gonzalez, please take your time. We're gonna give you time to bring yourself back together. And I'm not cutting you off, right? I'm giving you time to gather yourself.
Gotcha. I'm
So
good.
you take your time, gather yourself, and I'm gonna ask Miss Commissioner Whitehead a question while you gather yourself, right? And I'm glad the meeting is flowing. So Commissioner Whitehead, what I want to ask you is, how do you deal with the emotions of the community as well as your emotions when in times where we are disappointed or maybe disappointed in the results, not only the actions, but the results stemming from not guilty verdict such as this?
Commissioner Chair Bennett, thank you for this question. I think it's important, first of all, to acknowledge the disappointment and have an open conversation that's open and honest to address, to give the community room to express themselves, not to put it to the side, to address the issues and the emotions and let it out. Because I know for me, I have children, and, we're so used to so many things on you and holding it in, especially in the African American community. You don't express yourselves a lot of time. You just keep going, going, going. So I think it's we should have an opportunity or a space that we can first acknowledge the disappointment, the trauma around these traumatic experiences that we continue to go through all around the country. And we're constantly going through it. Like Commissioner Gonzalez said, police training or retraining is needed. They need to learn the culture and the climate and the environments. You have different officers that may be from one side of the city and patrolling in another side. And they don't know, they haven't had the opportunity to get to know that culture and that climate and that community. So they don't know how to interact. So I think it's really important to have these meetings so that the community members, as well as police officers, have a conversation and they're able to openly and honestly express themselves and the traumatic experiences that we continue to go through time after time after time. Next, I would say we reflect on those things deeply regarding the causes and the lessons from the experience. What happened? Why did it happen? How can we move forward to open up, to rebuild the confidence within the community? Because I'm sorry, it's lack of trust. I'm not that far from Gilberto in the Fishtown, Port Richmond neighborhood, even though I was raised uptown. I'm a West Oak Lane girl. But I see it. I saw it there when I was in the West Oak Lane area. I see it down here in the North Philly, Kensington, Fishtown area. We have to rebuild and reflect on building the confidence within the community through meaningful actions that demonstrate our commitment and accountability, so we can progress forward. But if we are not allowing the community to have these conversations and it's just harboring inside, then we're not going anywhere. So yes, that's how, I deal with it in open space for individuals to express themselves like we're doing now. It's a lot of trauma behind it. A lot of us have gone through different things with police enforcement and things of that nature. And I don't know about you, but when I get stopped, whether I'm uptown, downtown, whatever, I feel some type of way. I have a sense of, panic and anxiety because I don't know how to communicate with police enforcement because we don't have that relationship. There's lack of relationship. And I know it's not me. When I speak to others, they feel the same way. I don't trust you. I don't know you. So we need to build that community connection so that there is transparency and accountability and progress through, like I said, meaningful action. We need change.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Whitehead. I will now pivot back to Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner Whitehead. That was awesome. Thank you so much for that. Like I said, my experiences have not been great, but I will say right now I do work with some police. I have the SWAT team. We do a Christmas drive here at my house for many, many kids in the community. But again, like with the news that we got today about the case and other cases, and the Irizarry case, it's like they're the problem is still there, and we have to acknowledge that it's there. And everything that Commissioner Whitehead said and everyone else, I am with that 100%. I will tell you, I do feel the same way. Like I'm 60 years old, and when I drive down the street, I do get nervous when police are behind me. I have a history of just being afraid, you know what I mean, and having people impacted by this system that just is still, for me, the system, it just doesn't work for us. And we need to find some way. I think this commission, and I see all these faces here, I know that we're going to be able to continue this good work. And these things just give me more strength to continue the work. So I want to apologize again and thank you guys.
There's no need to apologize. There's no need to apologize for showing your humanity. You don't need to apologize here. We called on you to express yourself and say how you felt. Don't ever have to apologize for openly and being open and honest with not only yourself but with this commission as well as your city. So I must say I do not accept your apology. I accept your humanity.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett. Thank you so much.
And with that, I'm gonna answer these questions. I think we need to start by asking tough questions, right? When things like this happen, the community feels hopeless. The community feels as if they do not have power. The community feels as if they do not have say-so, as if they're not heard, right? So the tough questions that need to be asked is, what can and cannot the community do? Realistic answers we're talking about. It's a lot of times, and I think we need to get back to doing these right to know lessons, right? But right to know scenario. I mean, I'm sorry, not right to know your rights. I apologize. We do know your rights sessions often throughout the city. We need know your rights scenarios, right? When things like this happen, what is our rights realistically? Because as we know, we have documents and paperwork, but we also have reality. What can we do realistically when incidents such as this happen? How can we try to de-escalate interventions or incidents like this within our community? What powers do we have when we see these on its face? Not the back end. Right now, we're dealing with the back end. What powers do we have when it's happening? And I think that's where we can begin to empower our community. All these things, I agree with all the commissioners. With everything the commissioner said, I agree with data analytics. I agree with community engagement. I agree with small spaces of expressing and dealing with the trauma, right? But I'm also of opinion that if we don't change things and how we act, it will continue to happen. So what can we do realistically when things like this happen to try to prevent it then? Because the death is still here. Someone has still died again. What can we do other than yell, stop, please stop, or it's something that we have to come up with some type of initiative where empowers the community but doesn't interfere with good policing, but stops bad policing before someone dies, before the family has to take on another burial service. And with that, I'll pass the meeting back to our executive director, Tanya McClary. May our prayers go out to the family of all those that have suffered that have died in such a traumatic fashion. Ms. McClary?
And I'm going to turn it over. We had two questions for you all. That was such a rich discussion. I'm going to turn it over to our outreach director to ask the second question. But I also just want to say this for the community, for the commissioners, but our office has a stance that all life is precious. That's why when I talked to you earlier, it doesn't matter if somebody committed a crime, they were still somebody's auntie, mother, brother, uncle, whatever. So we don't, we acknowledge the loss of all life. And that can sometimes be hard to hear because maybe some people were committing a crime when they might have been killed by the police or whatever, but we're talking about the humanity of whoever the persons are, whether it be a sworn officer or a civilian. And so I know that might feel controversial in some circles, but we acknowledge the life of anyone that's involved in officer-involved shooting whose life may have been lost. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Grimmage for our last question to the panel on this issue.
Thank you again. Listen, I am really enjoying this discussion. I love just hearing the feedback from all of you. You all have this wealth of knowledge and information, and you come from these different walks of life. And just hearing all of your perspectives, I think has just been extremely refreshing. This is probably one of my maybe favorite commissioner meetings, just because, you know, I just really, really love the discourse that we're having. So my question is going to be real brief, and I'm actually just going to ask it of two of our commissioners. Thank you, Chair Bennett, you know, for your final remarks. You know, I think educating and empowering the public about their rights is something that's very important. But I also think it is very important to just signal, you know, that sometimes even knowing your rights may not be the solution. You know, there are times when if your skin is weaponized, that's the problem. So we also know that depending on what you look like, advocating for yourself in the moment can have a different reaction depending on how you present. So I think we need to educate and empower the community, but also be aware of some of these real lived experiences that different people have that may make some of these encounters go differently depending on what you look like. So here's my question. You know, I think that oftentimes we have a community and public that may have difficulty staying the course with oversight. You know, if there is a national or local incident that happens, some of these meetings, we may have 60 or 70 people that log on. But then other times of the year, you know, you may not have as much community interest. And so we know doing this work, you know, interest sometimes can wax and wane. And I often say you cannot do oversight work if you are not comfortable with disappointment, because there are a lot of days where you have to work through some of those things. So my question is to Commissioner Solomon and to Commissioner Stewart, because I think you have a really rich history of working with young people. How do we empower and encourage our young people to stay the course? We are in an age where there's a 72-hour news cycle. They tell people when you post online, it shouldn't be anything longer than 3 minutes because you lose people. You know, how do we get these young people to stay engaged and to really pick up this mantle and continue this fight as some of us are getting older and we may not be able to be as present as we want to be? What do you say to these young people to keep them involved in oversight? Either one of you can go first. Just let me know what your thoughts are.
I would say for myself, sharing my journey, like when I was being interviewed for the Oversight Commission, I shared that with the young people I work with. Once I was sworn in, I shared that with them, the in real time things, because if they don't have a role model that is within a stone's throw that they can reach out and touch and look at within those time periods of despair, and it could just be they need somebody to talk to, they'll remember, you know, this person I look up to is doing these things as an adult. It's not like I just go to work, right? They see my active service, but they also see what it is to live like a clean and healthy lifestyle, that you can have had these negative experiences and been like a messed up person, but you know, in your walk, like for me in my walk with Christ, I don't have a problem telling somebody like I wasn't always where I was because I wasn't being treated for my trauma. I wasn't healing through my trauma. So giving them real time transparency of how I too am trusting the process and understanding why it is important for them to be present in the community, but also teaching them how to show up and what space they take up. So like I own a business and all of my young people are welcome to come in, but I have to tell them, take your hood off, right? When you come in, not so loud, mimic what you see. If you don't see everybody yelling and screaming in here, don't come in here with their energy or match what I'm doing. If you see I'm behind the counter talking to somebody, just grab a seat. So really just teaching them how to show up in the world. And when those consequences do occur, how to engage with law enforcement, how to feel comfortable looking at the person's badge number, like really teaching them how to engage in non-confrontational ways as much as possible.
Well, I would say to the point that was made from Commissioner Stewart as well as Chair Bennett, I think it was also mentioned by a few other commissioners. Everything starts with a level of education, them understanding what it is or what their rights are as human beings and as citizens within this country and within the city. I will also say you gotta meet the people where they are. Sometimes you're not going to be able to get these people or young people to come out to certain events, certain town halls. And sometimes it takes for you to navigate through the community and go to these blocks and go directly to them and let them know who we are and what we do. And again, educate them. And I will also say it's important to find ways to get them involved. It can be something as simple as getting them to express themselves and giving them a voice. Oftentimes, I just feel like young people in general just always feel like their voices are not being heard. So for us, being in positions of leadership, after we educate them, after we meet them where they are, I think it's important for us to find ways to get them involved and let their voices be heard. And I just think, some of the simple things and staying consistent, which is so important when you're dealing with people, especially young people, being consistent. We can't just be around when things are, when things are hot topics is going on, scenarios happen, tragedies happen. We gotta stay consistent and be involved in their lives, so they can know that we are real people. You can't lead young people. Young people, they got more discernment these days. They got more wisdom, and they understand or could discern whether or not a person is really for them or not for them. So I think just a number of those things and being consistent and the small things will go a long way. I'm certainly a person that I'm the person that's outside the community. I'm in spaces sometimes that, that's very unsafe. But this is where I come from. This is what I do. And this is what I will continue to do. So just think the small things we got to stay consistent at.
Thank you both for those reflections. I am going to be tapping to both of you. The weather is getting nice now, and we are always just trying to have more youth engagement. So I will be reaching out to both of you and all of you just to kind of get your perspective on maybe some ways that we can do exactly what you both just said. One thing that really gives me, that inspires me, is when I look out and I see whenever there's marches or meetings or different things, and you see like there are a lot of young people that really show up and come out to voice their opinions, about what's going on in our world. And it reminds me of, there's that song that John Legend and Common have, Glory. There's a line that says, movements take the wisdom of the elders and the young people's energy. And when you have those two things married together, you're unstoppable. So thank you so much for those reflections. We can move on. I know we have some other things to discuss tonight, but I did really appreciate this conversation with all of us.
Thank you.
Awesome. So Jody, if we could go back to our slide. And I think the next division that is up is the Government Affairs Division. So I'm going to ask if Layla Khalil can talk about this next slide.
Thank you, Executive Director McCleary. Hi, everyone. I'm going to just be speaking today about City Council budget hearings. We're here taking a look at FY26, so fiscal year 26, which goes from July 1st of 2025 all the way through June 31st of 2026. This is the city's budget and how the city is going to be spending its money. And so all testifying and called back agencies have gone through their testimony. So the different agency officials, different administrative officials have kind of come in and said, all right, here's how we're going to be spending our money this year. And now we're at the point where council is going to start hearing from the public. So what that means is, you still have an opportunity to provide, your input and kind of go out and have your voice be heard and your frustrations or your celebrations be heard to city council. And because city council is going to be hosting public comments two days next week, on Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday, May 13th and Wednesday, May 14th. Both are going to be in City Hall, room 400. That's the city council chambers. And they're going to be held from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. On both of those days. And so if you have the opportunity to head down to City Hall, you can sign up and make your voice be heard. So we have the information here on how to call. You can call in 215-686-3407, or you can email budget.hearings@phila.gov by 3 p.m. on the day prior for public testimony. So what that means is on that Monday, the 12th, or on Tuesday, the 13th, by 3 p.m., you've got to call in or send an email saying, hey, I want to sign up to testify in order for you to be heard and to speak. So we're letting folks know, all you got to do is you have to head down to City Hall, give them your full name, give them a telephone number they can reach you at. And what we're saying is, let them know that you want to support CPOC's budget increase and you want to see CPOC continue to grow as an agency. We know that as an agency, we are continuing to expand and doing new things. Every time we come out here, we're introducing new stuff that we're working on. And so we're really encouraging folks, if they have the chance, to go on down to City Hall. Thank you, Commissioner or Director McCleary. Appreciate it.
Layla, if you can let the commission know, as well as the members of the public that are listening, what is our budget ask? And also, last year, we actually had a hearing. We actually were able to testify, and this year we did not. But if you can still inform the commission and the public how we were able to be engaged during the budget process.
Yep. So CPOC was designated as a non-testifying department this year, as many other independent agencies were, like the First Judicial District, the Board of Ethics, the City Controller's Office. They were all designated as non-testifying agencies. However, back in April, on April 8th, Tanya was called up to testify before council to ask for and make our budget request before City Council. And there we requested a $1.1 million budget increase to fund 13 positions, 13 new positions that would help us get out into the community, conduct more real-time audits, and also help us staff up investigators so that we can be on our way to doing independent investigations. That budget increase is, a small number compared to many other agencies. We're at around 3.3 million. We want to get up to around 4.4-ish or so, right? And if you think about it, right, other agencies or other departments, like the police department, right, it's creeping up around $900 million and how much money they get to spend on their services, and we're down here at about 3. And so we really like to want to make sure that as the police department continues to get more money, CPOC also continues to be able to expand and to be able to do the type of oversight that is so important, that many of our commissioners, you all just spoke about, that we're all committed to. But if we don't have the resources to do that, it's going to be a much more difficult process. And it might mean that the type of oversight that we can provide isn't as thorough and isn't as detail oriented as we would like it to be.
So, Chair, we'll turn it back over to you to see if any people have any questions for Layla.
Commissioner Solomon, do you have any questions for Layla?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Commissioner Whitehead, do you have any questions for Layla?
Not at the time, Chair Bennett. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rockmar, do you have any questions for Layla?
No questions at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Does any commissioner at this time have any questions for Layla?
No.
Thank you.
No questions at this time.
Great.
And with that, we'll hand the meeting back over to you, Ms. McClary.
Great. If we could go to the next slide. So I'm going to turn this over to our Director, Nick Cotto, who heads up our investigations division.
Thank you, Tanya. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. It's nice to see the folks who have been commissioners, and it's nice to meet everyone virtually, at least, who are new. I think this is the first commissioners meeting where I've been able to present in front of you. So the way this section of the presentation works is I'll just give the commissioners a briefing on some of the main investigation activities that the division is doing. The first activity is responding to police shootings, which is something we do in real time, and I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. And the second is monitoring ongoing IAD investigations of complaints against police that happen. Those investigations happen at IAD by PPD's investigators. So first order of business, the police shootings. There was one police shooting at a person in April of 2025, and we also had one dog shooting in that month. In the link at the slide, there's public information about those shootings that we make available shortly after they occur. That brings our year-to-date total to 5 police shootings at people. So through April, there have been 5 of these shootings. And just as background, when these occur, I get a phone call shortly after the incident from the police department saying, hey, there's been an officer-involved shooting at this location. And immediately upon getting that call, myself and the other investigator, Jeff Hussein, will respond to that scene, observe what's happening at that scene. Typically, by the time we get there, investigators are still on scene. Crime scene investigators may be in the process of analyzing and gathering evidence, and we'll be there observing that process. The criminal investigators who are there will give us a walkthrough and provide us with a confidential information briefing describing, to the best of their knowledge, what had occurred leading up to and during the shooting. So if we could please go to the next slide, Jody. Thank you very much. So I wanted to brief the commissioners on the one shooting that we had in April, which occurred on April 28th. And the information that we have on this shooting is that at approximately 7:10, there was a carjacking and shooting incident reported at the 500 block of East Hunting Park Avenue. Reportedly, a man named Mr. Cooper stole a Toyota Camry at gunpoint and shot a person in the abdomen in the process of that carjacking. He also exchanged gunfire with another person who was on that location before driving away in the Camry. And so there were 911 calls that were placed, and Mr. Cooper's description was broadcast over police radio. Shortly after that, about 45 minutes after that, Philadelphia police officers identified Mr. Cooper and the Camry that he was driving and started a car chase, vehicle pursuit. Allegedly, Mr. Cooper fired at officers and continued to flee. In some video that we'll look at in a moment here, you may spot from a helicopter cam, Mr. Cooper pointing an object out of the window as he's driving the car. So this pursuit goes on for some time. Eventually, Mr. Cooper ends up in his in the Camry, stopped on the median of Roosevelt Boulevard. So everyone who's familiar with Boulevard knows there's multiple lanes of travel in both directions, and in many places along the boulevard, there's a grass median with some trees interspersed in the grass. And the car came to stop after lightly striking one of the trees in that median. Based on our understanding, Mr. Cooper exited the car. He had a gun in his hand. 7 Philadelphia police officers fired at Mr. Cooper. They struck him multiple times, and he was transported to Einstein Hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. If we could please go to the next slide, Jody. Thank you. So this is one thing that we've started to do sorry, Sherry, yes. Chair Bennett, did you have a question?
No, I didn't have any questions.
Okay, great. So what part of what we've started to do during these briefings is to gather video that we can share with the commissioners to try to get them a more immediate understanding of what had happened if that video is available. So what I have done is I pulled the news report that came from ABC6 shortly after and actually while this event was unfolding. So you can see this still image here shows this helicopter cam above. You can see in the center of the screen there's this silver Camry that you can also see is driving on what appears to be on the wrong side of the road against the flow of traffic. So we'll play this video through and that'll help illustrate what had transpired before the shooting.
Miles across several Philadelphia neighborhoods. A suspect led police on a wild chase, driving on the wrong side of the Roosevelt Boulevard and in the median, while at times shooting at officers. The chase ended with police shooting and killing the armed suspect. It is Monday night, and the big story on Action News is this deadly police-involved shooting. Investigators say it started with a carjacking where a driver was shot in Juniata Park, and then only Chopper 6 overhead as the dangerous chase unfolded on the Roosevelt Boulevard. The stolen car speeding away on rims at one point before finally crashing. Police tell us this is still a very active investigation tonight. And Action News reporter Caroline Goggin live where it ended in gunfire at Langdon Street in the Boulevard in Somerdale. And Caroline, what's the very latest?
All right, great. So
was a very expansive scene that shut down this stretch of Roosevelt Boulevard in Somerdale tonight. As you can see, the outer lanes of the boulevard, they reopened around 10 o'clock tonight, but the inner lanes of the boulevard, they remain closed right now as Philadelphia police and crime scene investigators, they remain here on scene. They are focused on this silver sedan, which is really the center of their investigation. But police tell us that much of that investigation will not happen until tomorrow. A carjacking suspect is dead, shot by Philadelphia police after a pursuit on Monday night.
We still have a lot to unpack.
Philadelphia police say it all started as a carjacking at G Street and Hunting Park Avenue in Juniata Park around 7:15.
At that point, there's a shot fired and that individual who owns that vehicle was shot.
Police say the 32-year-old man who was shot was taken to Temple University Hospital where he remains in critical condition. As for the suspect, he fled the scene in the stolen car, driving through multiple police districts and neighborhoods until police caught up with him.
And we believe at that point he fired out of the car at pursuing officers. That pursuit continues down into the 4600 block of the boulevard.
Video from Chopper 6 overhead appears to show the suspect pointing a gun out the window. Then in the median on the 4600 block of the boulevard, the armed suspect gets out of the stolen car. Police say 7 officers then opened fire.
That male was shot multiple times. He is transported to Einstein Hospital, where he's determined is deceased.
Police have not identified the suspect yet. They say this was an incredibly dangerous situation as the suspect opened fire at officers while fleeing in that stolen car.
We authorize the pursuit in these situations to ensure that we can bring this person. The fact that they have fired a weapon in a totally different location at officers shows you some intent here. This is our charge. We will protect the city. And we will do the job each and every day, despite the challenges we face.
And back out here live in Somerdale tonight along the boulevard, you can see Philadelphia police remain out here as their investigation gets underway. That investigation will focus on the inner lanes of the boulevard, specifically this median where the pursuit ended and where the suspect was shot. As for those 7 police officers who opened fire here tonight, we are told they are now on administrative duty pending the outcome of this investigation. We are live tonight in Somerdale. I'm Caroline Goggin, Channel 6.
All right, terrific. Thanks, Jody. So hopefully that was able to illustrate a bit about what had happened before that shooting. In terms of process, I think the police commissioner said that there's a lot to unpack, and that certainly remains true for us. What happens after we respond to the shooting is we will receive a large number of documents related to that incident that were gathered by the crime scene investigators. So that could be photographs, that could be body worn camera, that could be surveillance footage, all of them, much of the material that's electronically available will be made available to us to review and understand in detail what had transpired. So as you can probably predict, because it was a sprawling scene that started at a storage facility, went down the boulevard, went down a number of side streets during this pursuit. There continues to be quite a bit to unpack, but we, myself and our staff investigator Jeff, are hard at work analyzing that. It's also important for us to keep that information confidential because as is true with every police shooting, there is essentially an open inquiry or question as to whether any officer's conduct was criminal, and ultimately the district attorney will make a decision whether or not to bring charges, or whether or not there's a reason to bring any criminal charges. So while that decision remains open, it's certainly important to keep confidential information confidential. And also, after that criminal question comes and goes, we will be preparing the case for the administrative review that happens down the road. And the question during that review is whether or not the officer's shooting was in line with the department's use of force policies and procedures and standards. So we'll look forward to be participating and briefing Tanya ahead of that review as well. So I'll pause there to see if there are any questions from the commissioners about the shooting that happened in the city on April 28th.
Nabi,
I have a question.
thank you, Director Carter. Does any commissioner have a question for our Director of Investigations? His name is Nick Carter. Did I pronounce it right, Nick?
Yep, Nick Cotto.
Nick Cotto.
Yes, I have a question.
This is Commissioner Gonzalez.
Mr. Catto, when you get these reports, do they also, because there are a lot of moving parts to this. Will you know who this person was, some of his background, like what school did he go to, where did he graduate? Did he graduate? Did he have prior records? Will we know a little bit more about this individual?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, what I can tell you is the information that we get from the police department generally is guided by what they think is going to be immediately relevant to that narrower question that they have about the criminal case and the administrative case. So often what that looks like is we may get some information about a subject's demographics, right? Race, age, their address. I could certainly imagine if a case had something relevant to do with the person who was shot, where they worked or where they went to school or something like that, that detail may be included. But as a matter of sort of business or course, that's not always the case. It's not if they don't think that it's going to be directly relevant to that criminal question, they might not gather that information.
Thank you for that. That's a broader question also for the commission too, because I think what I see as part of the report, we need to know who this person is and what led to this. Because we talk a lot about trauma. I don't know if that's in our wheelhouse or not, but maybe trying to understand some of that trauma that led this person into doing the actions that he took. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Does any other commissioner have any questions for our executive director? Our Director of Investigations, Nick Carter.
No questions for me at this time, Chair Bennett.
Thank you. I have a a comment for Nick Carter, for our Director of Investigations. My comment is, how do we balance oversight when we have incidents like this where it shows a threat to police. I also want to ensure that the officers of Philadelphia that we stand with good policing. I want to repeat that. We stand with good policing with this incident, as well as the incident that happened a couple days ago where a rookie officer was shot up Overbrook High School. My prayers go out to all the officers involved. And I want to emphasize that Oversight is not against good policing, and we do not look down on good policing, but how do we balance our support and ensure that incidents, because we've seen where officer involved shootings happen when an officer gets shot or an attempt on an officer's life, the culture of policing then turns and it opens the door for misconduct. So how do we balance that and ensure that they know that we stand with good policing?
That's a great question. I think it's important, especially from an investigation standpoint, to always remember that what we're doing is not outcome focused, especially from investigations. I don't start with a conclusion and work backwards to try to find a way to get an officer or to get an officer off, right? The basis, I think, of supporting or having a critique of any individual officer's actions is to start from a place of gathering information, as much information as you possibly can, weighing that information and applying the standards and expectations of the police department to those actions. And that way you've established a process where and I think that is actually a really strong way to support the police department, is to dedicate the agency to a process where we come to conclusions that are based in fact, that are based on standards, that are based on expectations of the police officers that police the city. So in those cases where we look at all the information and say this aligned with their policy, we can say not only good job, we can say good job for these reasons. And in those cases where an officer violated policy or used excessive force, we can say precisely that, and we can say why we think that. We think because of this circumstance and this circumstance and this circumstance, that officer violated the use of force policies that are applicable to every Philadelphia police officer.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me? I want to make sure I can be heard. My next thing, right? I think they call it clickbait. I've been just on social media and watching the interactions, right? Every time something happens, and it's always a question of why this person, what happened? Why isn't this person speaking? Why this person isn't speaking out publicly against it or giving their opinion? And I think it is important. One thing you said, that we don't speak on things when it's an open investigation. No one in the know of good what is community service to the public or an investigation speaks on an open investigation. So I just want to thank you for emphasizing the need of confidentiality while the investigation is still ongoing.
Thank you, Chair.
I wanted to circle back to Commissioner Gonzalez's point that he raised. And, just let the commission know, as well as the community, that a lot of times the questions that Commissioner Gilberto, Commissioner Gonzalez is asking is not a part of the investigation. Many departments across the country, police departments, they focus their investigation on the moment of the use of force. And so sometimes how that person led to be here and these things are not answered or asked. And I think that, you know, in many cases that I've had a chance to review, I think that's kind of, in some ways, a mistake. I understand that, you know, they're focused on whether or not, you know, a shooting was in policy or not. But a lot of times how things led up to that can be illuminating and can be helpful. In some cases in the actual investigation of the shooting itself. And so Commissioner Gonzalez, what you're raising, I think sometimes is a source of frustration, especially for family members in situations where there might have been mental health issues and other things where, you know, they might have tried to get help for their loved ones and, you know, it ends in these types of situations. But most of the time, police departments and their analysis of a shooting in terms of justification are really looking at kind of the moment of the use of force itself, not looking at potentially all the things that led up to it. So I wanted to just add that piece.
Oh, thank you.
The floor is yours, Ms. McClure.
Tanya, I'll just proceed with the last part of the investigation slides here.
Miles.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so the second main bucket of investigation activity that I wanted to bring to the commission are the monitoring activities that the investigators do of active IED investigations. So just by way of background, these are complaints against police that are either filed with our office or directly with IAD that for their subject matter has garnered some interest from us. And you can see the sort of cases that that might include. Those include Fourth Amendment alleged violations. So this is your searches and seizures, your stops and frisks, your vehicle searches, that category of things where someone is alleging that an officer lacked the legal basis to do the search or the seizure. Also complaints alleging lack of service or significant lack of service might seem like a relatively minor sort of complaint, but we understand that these are the sort of complaints that do drive community mistrust in police officers. So understanding those lack of force cases is very important to us. Of course, complaints alleging physical abuse or excessive uses of force are going to be of interest to us. We have a few of those allegations that we're currently monitoring, and we have at least one complaint that is alleging an officer's courtroom testimony was inconsistent with the facts and other evidence available in the case. So we're very, of course, interested in looking at how that investigation plays out. And just to put a detail on what that looks like, we will contact the ID investigators, have a conversation with them about the investigation, review documents that they may have. So for instance, in a case with the inconsistent court testimony, of course, we will gather the courtroom testimony, review it, and share it with the ID investigator or vice versa, depending on who gets first. We'll also go up to IID's office in the far northeast corner of the city and attend the interviews that the investigators are conducting of the witnesses, of the witness officers, of the subject officer who's the target of the investigation, and watch those interviews happen in real time. And at the end of those interviews, if we think there are some questions that the investigator may have missed, or if there's something that we want to clarify, we have the opportunity to ask those questions and make that part of the record. So this is a real sort of live opportunity for us to provide some feedback into those investigations and dedicate what ends up being a fairly significant amount of resources to make sure that some of these cases of interest have some eyes on them before the investigator closes the investigation and reaches the findings that they're going to find. So it certainly is the case that these are IID's investigations. These are not CPOC's investigations, and these are IID's interviews and not our interviews. But the monitoring does get us one step closer to being involved in that investigation process. Because these are ongoing, all of these are live, ongoing cases that haven't meted out any discipline, have not been dismissed. They're still ongoing. There are a lot of details that are confidential because these are ongoing investigations. But I wanted to sort of at a high level report out on the types of cases that we're monitoring up at IID. So I'll pause there, see if there are any questions about those activities, about the sort of cases we're monitoring, anything like that.
Does any commissioner have any questions or comments at this moment?
No, I don't have any questions or comments at this moment. This Commissioner Solomon.
With that, we'll pass the meeting back to our Director of Investigations, Nicholas Carter.
Thank you. I think that's actually the end of the investigations slide, so I'll pass the mic. Thank you.
So we're going to pass it over to our Director of Outreach and Training, Director Grimmage.
All right, thank you, thank you. Okay, so before I get started, as I do every time I give a presentation, I just want to take a moment to just shout out my team here. I have the esteemed privilege of leading a team of superstars who make this agency look good, and we do a lot of the public-facing work. And any success that outreach and engagement and training has is because of these superstars that you see on your screen here. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so I thought that it would be good to just start by highlighting the fact that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We would be remiss if we did not acknowledge that. And so as you can see on the slide here, we have a couple of tips and resources, as well as some mental health and self-care upcoming events that are happening across the city. All of this information can be found at healthymindsphilly.org. You can see here there are quite a few events for self-care, some support groups, a bunch of different things, some youth wellness tips, some community wellness tips. And all of this, as I said, can be found online. Thanks to Healthy Minds Philly for posting some of this content. And I do want to mention that anyone that is experiencing a mental health crisis or emotional distress can call 988. That is the crisis hotline number. And if you are deaf or hard of hearing, using TTY, you can hit 711, then 988. Next slide, please. Okay, so I don't know if you've seen our annual report. I hope you have. But if not, I wanted to just take a minute to highlight a few of the things that were listed in our annual report that deal with outreach, the outreach division. So the outreach team's primary focus is getting into the communities of Philadelphia to build connections with residents, to advertise CPOC services, help educate the public about important issues related to policing in the city. We plan town hall discussions, events, and other initiatives, which are described in detail in the report. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of our outreach data. So if you are looking at our annual report, you will see a community outreach map. And so this just shows some of the areas of the city that we've had events in, the reason that we're there. And so you can take a look at these graphics at your leisure. I believe these slides are usually available on our website. But I just wanted, oh, and Jody has dropped it in the chat, thank you. But I just wanted to kind of highlight a little bit about outreach and what we do, because we really understand that obviously Philadelphia is such a big city. And so we want to be able to see where we're going. where we haven't been, some areas we still need to get to, and we want to just be transparent with the community about why we do some of our events. And so just to highlight, in 2024, we participated in 94 events. 67 of those were in person, 24 were virtual. And so some of the future outreach and training and engagement goals that we have for 2025 and beyond is to hire some additional bilingual staff. I mentioned a little bit earlier, we want to have some more youth engagement, specifically with schools. We want to have some more engagement with communities of faith. We want to build working relationships with small and large businesses in some of the Philly business corridors. And of course, we want to be able to have a larger presence in vulnerable areas of the city. Capturing the outreach data helps our unit learn about our footprint in the city. It helps us better understand how often and why we may be in a particular area, as well as where we may need to focus our efforts. Our captured data also allows us to share our work with the community who have an interest in our outreach and engagement. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so just to highlight some of the things that we have been up to this month, last month, April was Autism Awareness Month, and CPOC attended several events that were focused on inclusivity of the neurodiverse community and residents who communicate through ASL. So we participated in Inclusivity Day that Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church held. We went over to the Lighthouse, PPD, and the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia Center for Autism Research. They had a wonderful autism town hall that we were able to participate in. And these are just a couple of photos from that event. If you are ever curious, for our new commissioners, let us know if you don't have access to your calendar, but we post all of our outreach events on the calendar in case you want to join us when we are out in the community at some of these events being hosted by other agencies. Next slide, please. Okay, we also attended the Deaf and Hearing Communications Center Deaf Expo. This was held at Christ the King Deaf Church. And so this was a big Deaf Expo, but it was actually out in Westchester, but it was attended by many people that are also living in Philadelphia, shopping in Philadelphia. And so they invited us to attend. And as you can see here, our executive director, Tanya McCleary, she attended on behalf of the agency. And so, you know, there were many deaf organizations that were at this event. And so we were able to kind of engage and talk to the community about some of the concerns that deaf residents may have with the police department. And so in the past, CPOC and DHCC has held a town hall to listen to deaf community concerns. And the Deaf and Hearing Communication Center also worked with the police department to create the policy that outlines how officers should interact with the deaf community. And so over the years, you know, through the course of our work and at this event, you know, some of the things that were expressed were concerns about access to ASL translators when either deaf community members are reporting concerns or complaints, if they're in police custody, and when they are a witness. There were concerns about if a deaf person is arrested, where they may be cuffed, you know, because if they're cuffed in the back, you are cutting off their form of communication. So just some awareness about how to engage with that community. And then there were some concerns about overall sort of lack of understanding about the deaf and hard of hearing community. So we are going to be working with DHCC in the future to have some more of these discussions. A date has not been set yet, but we will certainly loop in our commissioners so that all of you can, you know, participate, and we can learn more from an organization that does a lot of work in Philadelphia and outside of Philadelphia with the deaf and hard of hearing community. Next slide, please. Okay, so our 2025 spring toiletry drive has ended. From April 1st to May 5th, we had a toiletry drive where we were asking community members to help support us as we gathered some items that we were going to give to the clients of Rep Court. And we were collecting baby items that we are going to be distributing at our upcoming community baby shower, which we will talk about a little bit later. And so let me tell you, I know I'm dating myself here, but I'm going to quote Colonel Hannibal that said, "I love it when a plan comes together." That's from the 18 for anybody who has no idea what that is. But really, our community partners rose to the occasion. We got so much participation from people. People sent us items. L&I showed up. Special thanks to our commissioners. Elder DeBose and her community gave us an amazing donation along with some gift cards. We are working with Commissioner Whitehead and Shalom Inc. This is going to be an amazing, amazing event on May 15th. And so we'll talk a little bit more about it a little bit later on. But those items that we're giving to the Rep Court clients and at the shower were made possible because of the overwhelming support we got from our community partners during our spring toiletry drive. We attended the 19th Police District Youth Pop-Up Shop. This is something that the 19th Police District has every so often to encourage some youth entrepreneurs. So they open up the district and they ask some young people to come set up little tables. And as you can imagine, young people are so creative. So there are people selling t-shirts and cosmetics and shea butter and people that there was a young man there that was selling car air fresheners. I bought one. It smells fantastic. Just so many interesting things that our young people are putting together. And so the 19th district, gives them the space, invites the community to come into the district, and you can, peruse at your leisure and purchase some items from the young people in the 19th Police District. And so CPOC always wants to be a support whenever we can. And so what we have done, this is the second year that we've done this, they charge a vendor fee. And so CPOC covers the fee for all of these young people so that nobody is turned away because they can't afford to pay for the table. So we want to make sure that people that want to, set up a table have the capacity to do that and that the financial cost isn't a barrier. Next slide, please. Okay, as usual, we were at the recent police recruit class. That was class 409. We gave our standard 2-hour oversight lecture that is usually led by our training and outreach manager, Damon. And that lecture focuses on the history of oversight, the creation of CPOC, dispelling oversight myths, why recruits selected the careers in law enforcement. We talk about similar recruit experiences across the nation. And so we were able to talk with recruit class 409. We also participated in some youth engagement along with Need Indeed organization, and that was at Roosevelt Elementary School. Again, outreach VIP, Damon, he went and met with the 4th grade students and talked about oversight in policing, future careers, and creating a positive change in the community. So our youth engagement is something that we really, really look forward to. Usually we open up the floor on occasion for our commissioners. We've had, Commissioner PA has attended an event with us at one of the schools, Frankfurt High School. So we will also be tapping some of you in the future if you have an interest in joining us at any of our events. I also want to just provide a couple of updates about some of the things that we're working on and we have in the works. So every year in preparation for the NACOL annual conference, they send out a call for proposals. And so the outreach team submitted a proposal for this year's NACOL conference. So the proposal that we submitted is called Turning Difficulty into Opportunity, Tips on Navigating Challenging Community Discussions. And so a really, really good example of that is sort of what we did a little bit earlier. And of course, that was just us as a commission, but oftentimes we have to have difficult community discussions. And sometimes people can shy away from some of those conversations because people get upset. Conversations can be very charged. You may feel like you don't have an answer to a specific question. But I think our approach is that providing the space to have the discussion sometimes can be just as important as providing an answer to a question. So we submitted a proposal to just maybe give some tips and talk with some other oversight professionals on some really good ways that you can just be brave and bold and not shy away from difficulty and use that as an opportunity. So on May 21st, they said that they will let everyone know whether or not your proposal was accepted or denied. So we will let you know when we know. But the good thing is, silver lining, if we are not selected to give a proposal in person at the NACOL conference, we still have the opportunity to possibly make this a webinar that other people can just log into. So we'll give you some information about that when we know what their decision is. Our executive director and myself will be participating in a webinar for the Council on Social Work Education members. That webinar is also going to be open to the public. And so the topic is Powerful Allies, How Social Work and Civilian Oversight Can Foster Community Trust. So you can see on the graphic here, it says date postponed. We just got information that they're going to give us another date in a couple of weeks after this. So we'll let everybody know when that is. But one of the things that we talk about when we do this work is that most of us came to Oversight by some other channel. And it's not a job or a career that you maybe think of. And so we really want to just get out there and talk to people and encourage, different professionals to consider how different fields can intersect with oversight and how people can get involved in this work if they have an interest. So we'll keep everybody posted and let you know what the link is in case you want to watch the webinar. Next slide. Okay, all right, so upcoming events. These are things to keep in mind. We hope to see all of you. So first, this is this Monday at 7:30. We are going to be at the Proscenium Theater at the Drake, having a discussion which is titled The Move Bombing in Remembrance 40 Years Later. That event is from 7:30 to 9:30. And this is something that I want to encourage all of our commissioners. Please come out and support us and join us. Tell a young person, if you're coming, bring somebody with you. If somebody tells you they want to come, tell them to bring a friend. Because this is going to be a very, very important conversation. We are going to have monologues that are going to be performed by Kathy Simpson and Jay Hernandez. We are going to feature a very special conversation with Mike Africa Jr. And we're going to have a special guest, Councilwoman Jamie Gaultier is going to be with us. And we will also have a panel discussion with former Enquirer reporter Larry Eichel and former Daily News and Tribune reporter Len Washington Jr. This is something you're not going to want to miss this event. You're going to want to be there because if not, you'll hear about it and you might regret not joining us. So please come out on Monday evening. And then on Thursday, May 15th, is our Mother's Day community baby shower. We are going to be providing some community members with some much needed baby supplies. So please come out and join us for that. There will be food, giveaways, games, resources. Our partners are, of course, we're having it at the Core Community Center at Esperanza, but we are partnering with Shalom Inc. and the 24th Police District. We'll have some resource vendors. Sadly, we are at capacity with resource vendors, and we are at capacity with attendees. We got an overwhelming response from the community. So I'm just looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. Commissioners, please, please, please join us. And then on the 22nd of May, from 7:45 to 8:30, we are going to have a community remembrance vigil in honor of the life and legacy of George Floyd. That is going to take place in the City Hall North Apron. Again, 7:45 to 8:30. And this is going to be an interfaith event where we're going to have some, just community reflections very briefly. We'll have candles. We're going to have a candlelight vigil. And it is just an opportunity to just do some reflection 5 years later, to remember this, man's life who really changed the culture and nature of policing nationally. And it certainly did quite a bit for Philadelphia. Of course, that along with the Walter Wallace incident really helped create CPOC. And so we want to provide space to honor that moment. And we will also be doing something similar in October on the anniversary of Walter Wallace's death. So those are a couple events to keep in mind. I do want to just let our commissioners know, although the outreach team spearheads a lot of our events and we come up with content, we welcome input from all of you. You're all from different districts. There may be things that you hear from the community that you think we need to attend. And of course, if you have an idea, if there's a discussion you think we should have, if there's an event we need to put together and you really want to help us put something in place, please, please, please reach out to us, because we are happy to work with you to create something meaningful for the community. So I'll stop there. If anyone has any questions or any thoughts, please share them. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to Tanya to take us from here.
Just want to also tell the commission chair before you go to questions that I also go to the trainings with the recruit class. I think it's really important that they see the top person in the agency cheering them on for success in their career. I sometimes joke with them and say, hopefully I don't know your name, because a lot of times how we know officers' names, right, is because somebody filed a complaint about misconduct. But I think it's really important for me as the head of this agency to be there as officers are getting ready to hit the street and start their career, so that they can know really about the agency. So the presentation that the outreach team has put together is phenomenal. And so I prioritize it. I think since I have come, I don't think I really missed but maybe one of these sessions, because I think it's really important for me to meet the women and men in blue that are going to be hitting the streets of Philadelphia soon and learn their stories and also help them understand CPOC. So I just want the commission to know that. So I'm often there as well with Damon and Talia as they lead those discussions at the academy. So Chair, we're turning it back over to you to see if people have any questions for Talia.
Does any commissioner have any questions for Director of Outreach, Talia Grimmage?
I just want to say,
I have a question.
Sorry, go ahead, Elder.
Am I able to be heard?
Yes, you are.
So it's basically a question, well, I don't know, question, comment, whatever. Good evening to everyone. I have been listening faithfully, and as I always do, and trying to be on the cutting edge of everything CPOC, so that we can make it a very robust and effective organization. I'm grateful for the reports from the directors and all of the information that is disseminated from meeting to meeting. I am, however, disappointed that the work of my organization, which is called Live Free Philly, we as an organization are the progenitors of what we now call CPOC, because we fought in city council and ended up getting on the ballot to remove what was then the PAC into what is now CPOC. And my organization, Live Free Philly, which was formerly a part of Power, we have worked diligently to make sure that the issues of CPOC are uplifted in city council and among elected officials in our city. On April 16th, we had a town hall meeting that was broadcast over WDAS. And that town hall meeting was designed for the express purpose of putting or elevating the the message and the image of CPOC and emphasizing to the elected officials that we're not merely looking for $1.1 million, but the overall projection and what they committed to at the beginning of this process was a $13.2 million budget. And we know that we can't eat that whole hog in one bite. But I think it is incumbent upon us to keep in the minds of the elected officials, Mayor Parker and City Council, that was part of the promise. And there are other parts of the promise that, one, are already in the legislation that have not been realized. And they are parts of the legislation, which is our first iteration. There are other parts that need to be included, addressed, and funded. To my chagrin, nothing has been said in these meetings about that town hall meeting. We worked diligently to come up with a one-page petition that we have been asking members of the community, because it is our hope and our expectation to put the signatories before the mayor, who was on city council at the time when the whole vision of CPOC was approved. She was a voter. She voted for the budget and for the legislation as it stands. And we have developed, or we put together this town hall meeting on April 16th. And to my fellow commissioners that don't know anything about it, our director participated, our executive director participated, Director Cotto participated, and other directors on staff were a part of the planning process and perhaps a part of the execution. I believe Jody was a part of the execution of the town hall meeting. Live Free Philly is still promoting this petition, because as long as they're still in budget negotiations, we have time to put it in the mayor's face that she committed to this, and we need her to uphold her promise and not merely pacify us with a maybe, but really move towards a definitive answer around the budget. So my point tonight is nothing has been said. I'm saddened by that. I don't feel like, I'm thinking that perhaps the effort wasn't valued as it should have been. And I also want to say that we still have time to push that petition. There's a QR code afloat that each commissioner, if you will, you can present to the members of your community and your friend base and have them sign it. Our goal was to get a minimum of 10,000 signatures to put before the mayor, remind the city council, and keep pushing until all of the pushing is over. They've been very salacious about when and how they're meeting and what's being discussed. We haven't been included, but this was an opportunity for us to usurp authority. And I believe that town hall meeting is a part of record on the WDAS community news outlet. So I just wanted to lift it up that I believe there was value to that process, and I'm not feeling or sensing the value from the members of this commission. And I'll make this statement. You might ask why I personally haven't pushed it. One, I don't have that kind of capacity. My team is pushing. But with regard to CPOC, I'll say this because it will resonate with our executive director. Some things don't move unless it's legislated from the pulpit. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Commissioner DeBose, for that reminder. I will say that we definitely advertise that discussion on social media. We have our newsletter that is coming out with a segment specifically about that WDAS interview with our executive director, and along with Kiera Bradford Gray and our commission chair. So thank you so much for reminding us that we did not forget about that event. We did advertise it and talk with the community about it. I apologize for that not being highlighted here. But there is an opportunity for the community to learn more about it in our upcoming newsletter. And also we can go ahead and make sure we share the link for anyone that didn't listen to the broadcast. They can go ahead and hear it.
And I also do want to respond to, you just got to fall on the sword when you need to. And so part of that, Commissioner DeBose, was miscommunication on my part. Normally when I participate in events, I talk about them. And so that was me not putting that in the slides that I presented tonight. But the work that you just laid out is crucial. I mean, to be able to deliver those signatures to the administration is very crucial. And so I want to just really apologize. It was not my team, it was me. And so I'd like to, when things come out, you just got to fall on the sword. And so I apologize. That should have been in the presentation that I gave you guys at the top. But what she has reminded us of is crucial. So to all the commissioners, that if you can follow what Commissioner DeBose was saying, it's very crucial. The petition that they are doing, the work that Philly Live Free has been doing has been literally from the beginning. As she said, they were one of the reasons I always joke and say I have a job, right? Because they created a commission that needed an executive director. So Commissioner DeBose, I think you'll understand this sentiment as one clergy to another, charge it to my mind and not my heart. That was clearly on me. And I really apologize. And so please know that you and Philly Live Free are crucial to our work and to our partnerships. And I truly apologize for that. And so just know it was not about not the value of it. It was just a misstep on my part. And so I'm so glad that you brought the efforts forward, and we will continue to promote those efforts, and hopefully the other commissioners will join in those efforts as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Solomon.
I would just ask, I was gonna make a comment earlier, but I'll just ask that information is a link to the petition. I'll just ask for that particular link so I can do whatever I can do on my end to share with the community.
Does any other commissioner have any comments for the director of outreach?
Commissioner Rockmire here. No questions at this time. Thank you very much for the work that you and your team continually do.
Thank you, Commissioner Rockman. I don't know if this applies to Talia or anyone else, but do we have full access to the calendar, or is the events on all the events on our calendars? Because I don't know. I do know a lot of the events I didn't see on our calendar. So I do see the baby shower, the community baby shower on our calendar. So will we have full access to the events? I mean, the calendar that shows the events.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes we're adding things, on a rolling basis, as we're putting things together. So just continue to check, but both of these events will, be visible.
Thank you. With no other questions.
The petition, Commissioner Bennett, Chair Bennett, the petition is on the Live Free Philly website, and it's the only petition there, and it speaks directly to the desired funding and support that we're continuing to ask for CPOC. And even after this budgetary season is over, we will not cease to bring pressure to bear on the elected officials because, as you can see in the news, officers already have qualified immunity, and the move is toward absolute immunity. The big question in the air right now is with regard to those who killed Mr. Nichols in Memphis, Tennessee. If they get a pardon for those federal charges, it's going to be a loud signal as to how this administration will be governing themselves with regard to absolute immunity when it comes to police officers. So we don't know what this administration is going to do. I'm talking about the federal administration, the president. But if he wants to set a standard for absolute immunity, this will be an opportunity or opportune time to do that. So we have to continue to push and get some things etched in stone for the city of Philadelphia and possibly the state of Pennsylvania to make sure that our men and women in blue are held accountable, continue to be transparent, and we get all the investigatory powers that our legislation entitles us to. I'm finished.
I also want to say the impact of the WGAS interview is that it was on iHeartRadio. That opened this commission up, I think, to our audience that may not have tuned in, right? That's an audience that is very diverse. And so I was really excited that Philly Live Free was able to get that going because, you know, we had the morning show host, we had, you know, other folk there. And so I think that there are some people that may not turn into maybe a traditional radio station or whatever that got to find out about the work of CPOC. And I was also encouraged that they got to hear our chair and hear his perspective about how he came to this work. So I'm always looking for ways, and Talia partners with me in that about trying to outreach to various communities. And so to Commissioner DuBose, again, the ability to get us on iHeartRadio, which is one of the biggest radios, of course, we know in this country, to be able to get us on that, and I think into kind of a more mainstream audience to hear about the things that we face, and the leadership of this commission, I think, was extremely important. And so once again, very grateful for that in terms of, I think, expanding our base of people that are keeping current with what CPOC is doing.
Thank you. For all the commissioners that missed it, and everybody in the community that missed it, the link to the town hall hosted by Roxy Romeo and Mother Knows, as amongst others, are in the chat. Also, the petition is in the chat. So with that being said, click the chat, sign the petition, have your community sign the petition, or your network sign the petition. Ms. McClary?
Chair, I think that concludes our portion, and it's back to you.
And with that said, it's that time of the meeting again. Community colloquy. I ask if you have any questions or comments, please raise your hand while I'm reading the community colloquy. Therefore, once I'm done the community colloquy, we can go right into your comment. As always, I will be reading this verbatim, so we have no discrepancies on a meeting to meeting occasion. And with that, here goes the community colloquy. We welcome public comments and feedback. Please address your comments to myself as the chair. If you would like to speak, please provide your full name. We will not be unmuting anonymous participants. If you are a member of the media, please identify yourself as such. You can indicate you would like to speak by raising your hand or sending a request to the meeting host in the chat. You may also submit public comment through the chat. We have 3 minutes to address, no, you have 3 minutes to address the commission. I will keep time and notify the commission when 3 minutes have elapsed. Any documents or follow-up communications can be submitted by email to cpoc@phila.gov. That is CPOC, the @ PHILA, period, GOV. Public comments should be limited to the topic covered in this meeting. All public commenters must refrain from offensive language, threats, and or harassments. Participants that violate these instructions will be removed from the meeting. While we welcome your public comment and feedback, commissioners may not be able to respond to your comment or questions during tonight's meeting. Every attempt will be made to follow up by phone and or email after this meeting. Once again, you can contact us at cpoc@phila.gov. The email address, once again, is cpoc@phila.gov. Or you can call us using the toll-free number, or, hold on, is it a toll-free number? I'm sorry. You can contact us using 215-685-0891. That is 215-685-0891. And with that being said, we open the meeting to public comments. Danny, do we have any public comments at the moment?
Danny is not on. I'm here.
Jody, I apologize.
No worries.
Jody.
As of now, no.
I apologize, Jody. As I said, I read this verbatim, and I'm so used to saying Danny after it that verbatim means verbatim. All right, so I apologize. With that being said, we are going into an executive session to get for legal advice. So with that being said, do I hear is anybody in a public comment? Any hand raised? And since there's no hand raised, does anybody have a motion at this time? A motion to
I
adjourn?
move that tonight's meeting be adjourned
That is Commissioner
until our next
Elder.
meeting on.
That is I'm sorry.
I move that our meeting be adjourned until our next meeting on May 22nd.
May 22nd is definitely our next meeting. I apologize, Elder.
It's not.
No, I'm sorry. I'm
May
sorry.
20th.
It is that Tuesday, right? It's the Tuesday. Okay. The May 20th is our next meeting. It's on a Tuesday. May 22nd is the George Floyd.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. So, for documentary reasons, that is Commissioner Melanie DeBose motioning that we adjourn this meeting tonight. Does anyone second that motion?
Commissioner Rockman here.
And I second.
Oh, Commissioner Rockman beat you. Hold on. I apologize. Commissioner Whitehead beat you, Commissioner Rockman. Commissioner Whitehead and Commissioner Rockman motion seconds this motion. So with that being said, I will ask all those in favor of adjourning this meeting, please say aye.
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 All those not in favor of adjourning this meeting, please say nay. And with that, the ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. You guys enjoy your night, enjoy your week, enjoy your weekend, and until next time, bye.
Executive